Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fallout 76, where it's time for another trip to the Purveyor, where today we're going to spend 1,000 legendary Scrip on 3-star ranged weapons. We'll see if Mama Mumbles has anything good for us, anything interesting we can play with, and yeah, you know how that goes. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. We'll see if she's got any love for us left this week. Remember, if you like videos like this and you want to see more, do go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, follow me on Twitter. There's always a lot going on the channel, and I do hope I see you again. Without further ado, let's get going. And our first roll of the day is a Juggernaut's hunting rifle with limb damage and agility. So, the hunting rifle, it's a capable enough weapon. Unfortunately, the Juggernaut's effect is not going to do a whole lot for it. The Juggernaut's effect is kind of intended to be an alternative to Bloodied, something for full health players to use. Unfortunately, it doesn't come anywhere close in terms of damage. The maximum damage buff you're going to get from Juggernauts when you're at full health is going to be 25% compared to 80% if you're at 20% health with Bloodied, not to mention the fact that you can also run Adrenal Reaction, which will give you 50% more damage if you're at 20% health, and you don't even need a legendary effect for that. So Juggernauts is fairly disappointing unless you are just an absolutely dedicated full health player and you don't want to take on anything else. Then maybe you get some mileage out of it, but otherwise not really. Limb damage, not my favorite effect on a ranged weapon, especially one like this that's kind of designed to hit hard and take enemies down from stealth very quickly. So not going to get a lot of mileage out of that. Extra agility doesn't hurt. That's going to give you a little more AP for use in VATS. Unfortunately, between the weapon and the other effects that are on it, this is probably not a keeper. Let's see if we can improve our luck on the next roll with an Exterminator's pump-action shotgun. 50% VATS hit chance and 250 damage resistance while reloading. So short answer, no. We did not improve our luck here. The Exterminator's effect, not one of my favorites in the game. There are a number of situational damage effects, slayer effects like Exterminators, Mutant Slayers, Ghoul Slayers, etc. Some of those can be very useful, particularly Mutant Slayers and Troubleshooters. Those effects, you have lots of scenarios around the game where those can be useful. But Exterminators just isn't really one of them. There aren't a lot of scenarios where you're going to be going against Mirelurks and bugs in large enough numbers to justify keeping around a weapon like this. With that said, extra VATS hit chance is an excellent effect, especially on a shotgun where you have to get fairly close to get a hit on your target. So boosting up that VATS hit chance in general just makes the weapon a little bit more effective. So if you want to go pump action shotgun and you don't have a good legendary one, then that might be an improvement here just based on the VATS hit chance. 250 damage resistance while reloading, that's not a bad thing on a pump action shotgun either. It's not the quickest weapon in the world to reload, so if you can get a little bit of extra protection, this is the right weapon to have that on. So I don't love the primary effect, but our second and third effects aren't bad. And now we've got a real winner. Quad, 25% faster fire rate, 50 damage resistance while aiming, 10mm submachine gun. I am a huge fan of the quad effect on commando weapons. One of the things that slows down your DPS more than anything is simply stopping to reload them. So if I can get 4 times the ammo out of it, that's awesome. It's also a nice little offset for your magazine where if you want to go with a magazine that's going to give you higher armor penetration but lower capacity, that's okay. You're not really costing yourself anything with the quad effect, so that's great. 25% faster fire rate is again going to improve our overall DPS, and 50 damage resistance while aiming. Not a bad thing here. Personally, I prefer to use the 10mm submachine gun in VATS because it's a very snappy, high recoil weapon. But if you're not a VATS user and you want to use it outside of VATS, then that gives you a little bit of extra protection while you're aiming down sights. So this is not a bad one. I still think this weapon needs a suppressor so that it can see its the fullest extent of its greatness. But even without it, it's still a pretty solid weapon, especially with these effects. So this one's definitely a winner. Let's see what's next. And now we've got another Exterminator's weapon. Ooh, and another Exterminator's shotgun at that. This one's Exterminators. We replenish action points with each kill. I know there's an official name for that, and it is just totally escaping me right now. And 15% faster reloads. So, here again, don't love the first effect. Not a very useful effect. But replenishing action points on each kill, that can be useful, especially if you're using this thing in VATS. 15% faster reload for a weapon that you've got to reload every 2 shots. That's going to be an improvement. It's definitely going to help. So here again, I like the second and third stars. Don't love the first star. The double barrel shotgun is a lot of fun to use. It's a high damage, big boom kind of weapon. So there's a lot of great things about this weapon in general, but I don't love the Exterminator's effect here. I'd much rather see, quite honestly, quad, but short of that, bloodied, anti-armor, something that's really going to pump up the damage on a weapon like this would be fantastic, especially with those second and third stars. So not a winner, but maybe the next one will be. Let's see what we've got. And our next roll is in fact a winner. Okay, here we go. Bloodied explosive submachine gun with 250 damage resistance while reloading. Let's get the dud perk out of the way first. So that's the damage resistance while reloading. I mean, I guess it's not a bad thing to have, but this is a pretty quick reload weapon, so you're not going to get a ton of mileage out of that. There's any number of things I'd prefer to see over that effect on this weapon, but with the bloodied and explosive effects, I think we can forgive it. So bloodied, of course, is going to be the king of the hill when it comes to damage, and it's going to take a weapon like this that's kind of a second-tier commando weapon and give it enough damage that you can really do some work with it. Adding the explosive effect, in addition to the fact that it's just kind of gonna feel like the spray and pray from Fallout 4, which everybody likes and is a good time all around, that's gonna give you another damage boost, especially when you pair that with Demolition Expert. So even though this is not maybe the greatest commando weapon of all time, it's a lot of fun to use. With a drum mag on it, you can put a lot of ammo in this thing before you have to reload. So that's another little perk here is, again, your damage is a little lower, but your ammo capacity is a lot higher. So comparing this to something like a handmade or a fixer, yeah, it doesn't do quite as much damage, but you can put a lot more shots on target before you have to reload. So it has its benefits. This is definitely a winner. Really, really happy with this roll. I'd expect to see this one in a weapon spotlight soon. So far, so good. We've got 2 good things so far today. Can we get a third? Almost. So it's bloodied. That's good. Good damage on the bloodied weapons. It's a plasma pistol / rifle, depending on how we mod it. Not the greatest weapon in the game, but it can be pretty good, especially if we put a flamer barrel on it. Unfortunately, we've got bashing damage and damage resistance while reloading. Reloading on your plasma weapon, on your plasma pistol / plasma rifle, it's a very fast process, so you're not getting a ton of mileage out of that. Bashing damage, unless you're talking about a shredding barrel minigun, bashing damage is completely worthless on everything. And I hate that it exists on every single weapon. It just dilutes the loot pool and it's not fun. So I really hope that they get rid of it at some point. Go ahead, keep it on the minigun, that's fine, but everything else it's totally worthless on, unless they're going to really increase bashing damage overall. So not bad, but let's see what's next. Mutant Slayer's Gatling laser that breaks 50% slower, and the last round in a magazine has a 25% chance to deal double damage. That legendary effect is right up there with bashing damage for me. The more I think about it, the more useless I believe it to be. Maybe if we're dealing with a weapon like, say, a double barrel shotgun that only has 2 rounds in it, maybe there it makes sense. But on something like this, where you're using fusion cores and you get 500 or 1,000 rounds to a magazine, depending on your perks, this is just ridiculous. This is a joke of a legendary effect. So really disappointing. Breaking 50% slower is fine. I don't like fixing things and grinding for materials and burning up my repair kit, so I don't mind that. Mutant Slayer's effect, not terrible. Of the Slayer effects, it's one of the more useful ones because there's a lot of things we do where we're killing super mutants, whether you're grinding West Tech or doing certain events or daily ops. You can kind of predict it, so it's not a bad thing to have. Overall, it's okay, but we're not really getting anything out of the second star, so that's a disappointment. And now here's another one that's a disappointment, a Hunter's Missile Launcher with bashing damage and agility. Now, it's important to note that missile launchers in Fallout 76 have improved dramatically over the last few patches. They no longer break in 5 seconds like they used to. The way their damage is calculated is better than it used to be. It's still not perfect though, let's be honest with ourselves, but it is an improvement. And if you pair it with the Grenadier perk, you get some huge, very fun explosions. Unfortunately, this one has a bunch of garbage effects on it. The Hunter's effect is damage to animals. Who cares? It's kind of like Exterminators. You're just not keeping it around for that. Bashing damage is worthless. Extra agility's fine, but who cares? Let's move on. And now we've got a Bloodied Gatling laser, again with the bashing damage and faster movement speed while aiming. So effectively here we've got a 1-star Bloodied Gatling laser. The Bloodied effect is great. Love it. Always going to be a good effect, especially on a weapon like this that you're probably going to rock this in power armor. You're going to have emergency protocols going. You can go at low health and you're already going to be really tanky. So this is going to boost the damage of this weapon to a point where it's a bit more effective than it otherwise would be. So that's great. That's fine. That's wonderful. Bashing damage sucks. Faster movement speed while aiming. Great idea. Doesn't really give you anything. If you're a higher level player and you're running the Speed Demon mutation, you're already maxing out your speed, so you're not getting anything out of it. If you don't have that mutation, you are technically getting a little something, but it's not really all that noticeable and probably not all that useful. So sadly, 2nd and 3rd stars are total duds here, but the Bloodied effect is solid. If you don't have a good legendary Gatling laser and you're a heavy gun build, then well, hey, this is going to be an improvement. Otherwise, it's going to be a disappointment. Let's see if the last roll of the day gets any better. And well, I mean, maybe a little, sort of. So you've got a Ghoul Slayer's Tesla rifle with 25% faster fire rate and extra perception. So let's talk the good. The Ghoul Slayer's effect, not one of my favorite effects, but on a weapon like this, it can be good. And ghouls are great when you're using a Tesla rifle. You might be farming White Spring, you might be running Radiation Rumble. A Tesla rifle is a great weapon for that because it lets you get tags on lots and lots of enemies so you can get lots of XP. That's solid. Unfortunately, the magazine size leaves a bit to be desired here. So with 25% faster fire rate, you're going to chew through ammo really, really fast and maybe not really get a whole lot more mileage out of it than you otherwise would. But Ghoul Slayers is not an overall bad effect to have on a Tesla rifle. My preference is quad with faster fire rate. That's going to give you a lot more ammo. You're not going to have to reload as often with the painfully slow reload on a Tesla rifle, but Ghoul Slayers would probably be one of the more desirable effects just because that's when you're going to pull this weapon out. You're not really going to use this against super mutants and robots and things like that. This is definitely something you use against squishy enemies, so that's not bad. Extra perception doesn't hurt, but you're not really using this in VATS, so I don't think you get a ton of mileage out of that. It's not a terrible roll, but it's not an amazing one. What it is, however, is the last roll of the day. Overall, I have to say this was a successful trip to the Purveyor. We got a quad faster fire rate 10mm submachine gun. We got a bloodied explosive submachine gun. It's tough to beat those two things. We got a couple other things that might as well be good 1 stars, but that's really the extent of them. But overall, 2 out of 10 is not bad when you're talking about the Purveyor. We did pretty well. So that's going to bring this one to a close. I hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully you learned a little something from it. Hopefully you got a little entertainment value out of it. Whatever keeps you coming around, keep coming around. Remember, if you did like this and you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, follow me on Twitter. There's always more to come on the channel. We've got streams every week. There's a couple of videos every week. There's always stuff going on, and I hope I see you all next time.